The only potential risk with the national debt increasing over time is inflation.
I'm one of a handful of economists who contributed to the body of academic scholarship known as MMT, or Modern Monetary Theory. MMT provides an accurate description of how a fiat currency, like the US dollar or the British pound, actually works. It reminds us that we're no longer on a gold standard, so finding the money to pay for the things we need is never an issue for countries like the US or the UK.
Banyak disebut-sebut sebagai pionir MMT, tapi malah sering kebalik-balik memahami apa itu Modern Monetary Theory. Ya, itulah junjungan kita, Bossman Mardigu. Potongan video ini akan membuktikannya, guys.
Dan dapat dipastikan selama pakai dolar dan dolar dicetak berlebihan dan dolar diedarkan dengan sistem hutang pakai surat berharga yang ada bunganya, lupakan dunia akan sejahtera. Solusi menggunakan currency backed by gold adalah yang terbaik, di mana langkah awalnya seperti apa yang MMT lakukan yang telah diterapkan di dinaran. Pakai berat emasnya dalam transaksinya, tak usah buat uang fiatnya lagi.
Jadi menurut Bossman, currency backed by gold alias standar emas itu sudah diterapkan oleh MMT, atau minimal adalah solusi yang ditawarkan oleh MMT. Terus terang gue jadi bingung nih, sebenarnya Bossman ini paham MMT nggak sih? Bossman ini paham nggak sih sama pandangan ekonom-ekonom penggagas MMT yang sering beliau sebut-sebut seperti Warren Mosler, Michael Hudson, atau Stephanie Kelton? Kalau ngaku paham, tapi kok agak sungsang alias kebalik banget ya pemahamannya ya. Di video tadi, Bossman seolah-olah mengasosiasikan MMT dengan standar emas. Padahal kenyataannya standar emas itu justru musuhnya MMT, bos. MMT dan standar emas itu antitesis. Musuhan mereka berdua ini, bos. Kemudian, ekonomi non-utang dengan MMT itu juga antitesis. Nggak ketemu dua makhluk ini. Kenapa antitesis? Karena salah satu prinsip dasar dari MMT adalah penciptaan uang fiat oleh pemerintah atau lembaga fiskal. Artinya MMT itu mendorong agar pemerintah itu nggak perlu nunggu dapat uang dari pajak untuk belanja APBN. Terus uangnya dari mana? Dari nyetak duit melalui defisit APBN. Menurut MMT, defisit alias utang pemerintah itu tidak beresiko buruk untuk perekonomian, justru malah baik. Sederhananya, menurut MMT nih, utang pemerintah itu nggak ada batasnya. Karena itu, pemerintah dianjurkan untuk utang sebanyak-banyaknya. Loh, terus nanti bayar utangnya gimana dong? Nah, menurut MMT, nggak perlu dibayar. Nggak percaya? Gue puterin dikit ya videonya ya.
So, MMT starts with a simple observation, and that is that the US dollar is a simple public monopoly. In other words, the United States currency comes from the United States government. It can't come from anywhere else. So, what that means is that the federal government is nothing like a household. In order for households or private businesses to be able to spend, they've got to come up with the money, right? And the federal government, it can never run out of money. It cannot face a solvency problem, bills coming due that it can't afford to pay. It never has to worry about finding the money in order to be able to spend. If you think about what happened after World War II, when the U.S. national debt went in excess of 100%, close to 125% of GDP. If we were talking about it the way we talk about it today, as burdening future generations, as posing a grave national security risk, we would have to scratch our heads and say, wait a minute, do we think that our grandparents burdened the next generation with all of those bonds that were sold during World War II to win the war, build the strongest middle class, produce the longest period of peacetime prosperity, the golden age of capitalism? All of that followed in the wake of fighting World War II, increasing deficits, massively increasing the size of the national debt. And of course, the next generation inherits those bonds. They don't become burdens to the next generation, they become their assets.
Let me give you an example of the kind of broken gold standard thinking that still permeates our discourse. Back in 1983, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Margaret Thatcher, said these words: "If the state wishes to spend more, it can do so only by borrowing your savings or by taxing you more."
Gimana guys? Udah cukup jelas kan ya? Itu yang ngomong di video itu Stephanie Kelton loh, bukan gue. Kelton itu ekonom penggagas MMT yang paling berpengaruh sekarang ini. Karena Kelton ini penasehat ekonomi utamanya senator senior sekaligus capres Amerika Serikat yaitu Bernie Sanders. Kelton itu ultranasionalis AS, pro AS, pro US dollar. MMT itu justru diciptakan untuk mendukung dan melanggengkan hegemoni dolar, bukan sebaliknya seperti yang diklaim oleh Bossman Mardigu.
You could say that, for instance, Venezuela tried modern monetary theory, but because the currency was totally devalued by an economic war by the United States, it doesn't have the same kind of financial international economic power that the United States has, or that a currency like the euro would have. So, of course, a country like Greece can't do MMT because Greece doesn't have a sovereign currency, and a country like Venezuela can't do MMT. It seems to me that only a major economic power that other countries might use their currency to trade in, like the United States, would be able to carry out these.
The key is the balance of payments effect. No country can go broke if its debts are denominated in its own currency. So Venezuela's problem.
Greece can't print euros.
That's right. It can't do that either. And when the United States structured the Eurozone, it made sure that no central government, no national government could create its own national currency. So they can't run budget deficits to spend into the economy to help a recovery. The Eurozone has turned Europe into a dead zone because it is unable to use modern monetary theory, because the European Central Bank and the terms of the Eurozone agreements are that no government can run a deficit of more than 3%.
After spending. And that's the difference. That's why a household gets in trouble, because they have to collect first before they can spend. The U.S. can't be in that position with a floating exchange rate currency. Now, in a gold standard, which was the context of the original Austrian writings, yes, if the government spends and doesn't tax, it runs out of gold with defaults, and the system is in default. Okay, and you wind up devaluing, and it's a disaster.
Menurut gue pribadi sih bagus-bagus aja ya Bossman mengampanyekan standar emas atau ekonomi anti utang. Tapi salah alamat bos kalau merujuk ke MMT. Kalau kalian masih penasaran sama apa aja ajaran-ajaran MMT yang hakiki ya, yang tidak dibelokkan oleh kesalahpahaman atau kepentingan Bossman, coba share di komentar ya. Nanti kapan-kapan kita bahas lebih lengkap. Oke, sampai ketemu di video berikutnya. Saya Umat Nyumain. Salam Super Tahu.